My parents made me work 2 jobs to support the family, then gave credit to my brother. Now they regret it while I'm thriving. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've always been the invisible one in my family. If you asked my parents, they'd probably say they love both their sons equally. But love in our house always had a condition attached, especially for me. From the time I could speak in full sentences, I learned that if my brother Aiden so much as scraped his knee, the world stopped spinning. If I came home with a perfect test score, a shrug, maybe a distracted, "That's good, honey," before they turned back to whatever Aiden was crying about that day. My mom used to say, "Aiden's just sensitive. He needs more attention." As if I didn't. As if being quiet meant I didn't deserve any. I still remember one school assembly where I won 3 academic awards in a row. I stood on that stage, holding up my certificates with shaking hands, scanning the crowd for my parents. My mom was there, but she wasn't clapping. She was bent over, wiping tears from Aiden's eyes because he didn't win anything. Afterward, in the car, Dad looked at me through the rearview mirror and said, "Don't gloat, okay? It makes your brother feel bad." I wasn't gloating. I was just proud, for once. But somehow even that was too much. So I stopped talking about my wins. I stopped expecting praise. I became what they needed me to be, quiet, helpful, invisible. And in doing that, I became the foundation they walked on without ever looking down. Looking back, I wonder if that was their plan all along. If they saw in me a silent workhorse and in Aiden a fragile trophy to be polished. But back then I didn't question it. I just told myself, maybe one day they'll see me. They didn't. Not when things got worse. Not when they started leaning on me for everything. Not when the line between love and labor completely disappeared. I was 17 when the floor dropped out beneath us. Dad got laid off without warning. 30 years at the same company. And just like that, gone. Mom cried for days, and Aiden, of course, couldn't handle the stress. He started skipping school, locking himself in his room, saying the energy in the house was too negative. Meanwhile, bills piled up. Groceries started shrinking. The fridge hummed louder than anyone in the house dared to speak. One night, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen. Dad slammed something down and said, "We can't afford to keep the lights on next month, Alice. What do you want me to do?" I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I walked down to the local grocery store and applied for a part-time job. I lied and said I was 18. They didn't ask questions. I started stocking shelves in the evenings after school and mopping floors until midnight. The manager handed me my first paycheck like it was nothing. To me, it felt like I was holding the roof over our heads. I handed the whole thing to my mom. She didn't say thank you, just took it and said, "This'll help." Aiden never offered, not once. He spent his days on video games and late-night chats with friends. My parents never asked him to contribute. "He's dealing with it in his own way," they'd say. I wanted to scream, "And what about me?" But I didn't. I just went back to work. Eventually, I picked up a second job during the summer, a gas station night shift. I told myself it was temporary, that once things got better, maybe they'd acknowledge the weight I was carrying. But things didn't get better. They just got heavier, and the worst part? They didn't just let me carry the burden. They gave the credit to someone else. It happened at one of those family dinners where everyone shows up just to pretend everything's fine. My aunt had invited us over, and the whole living room smelled like roasted chicken and candles. I'd come straight from my gas station shift, still wearing my uniform shirt with my name tag half peeled off. My eyes burned from lack of sleep, but I forced a smile anyway. We all sat around the table, and that's when my dad started talking about how proud he was of Aiden. He said Aiden had really stepped up for the family during hard times, that he was the reason we're keeping the house. My mom nodded, adding, "He sacrificed so much for all of us. I nearly choked on my water. Sacrificed?" Aiden was sitting across from me, laughing with a forkful of mashed potatoes. His hands were soft. No calluses from hauling crates, no dark circles from night shifts. He hadn't sacrificed a thing. I opened my mouth to say something, but my mom shot me a sharp look, a warning. "Don't ruin this for him," her eyes said. "Don't make a scene." And like always, I swallowed my words. My throat burned with everything I wanted to scream. The unfairness of it pressed against my ribs until I could hardly breathe. After dinner, as we walked to the car, I muttered to Dad, "You know all that money came from me, right?" "Not him. He didn't even look at me." Don't start, okay? It's not a competition, but it was. And I was losing a game I didn't even know we were playing. That night, lying awake in my tiny room, I realized they weren't just ignoring me. They were rewriting the story, erasing me out of it entirely. And if they could erase me now, what else would they take next? By the time Aiden's senior year rolled around, it was like the entire house shifted into celebration mode. Mom was planning his graduation party 6 months in advance. Caterers, decorations, custom invitations. Dad beamed every time someone mentioned college. They even bought him a DSLR camera to capture memories. Meanwhile, I was still working both jobs, barely sleeping, and living off stale vending machine snacks. No one asked how I was holding up. One day, I came home after a 14-hour stretch and found Mom and Aiden arguing about what color tuxedo he should wear to prom. I stood in the hallway, sweaty and exhausted, holding a plastic bag of frozen burritos. No one even turned to greet me. I slipped past them like I didn't exist. I missed a college interview that week. My boss had called in sick and I couldn't find anyone to cover my shift. When I told my parents, Mom just shrugged. Maybe it wasn't meant to be. But when Aiden got waitlisted at his dream school, she nearly broke down in tears. Then came the final punch. I found the bank statement on the kitchen table, thousands of dollars withdrawn. When I asked Dad about it, he said, "We're covering Aiden's graduation trip. Cancun with his friends. He deserves it. Where do you think that money came from?" I asked, my voice shaking. He waved me off. "Don't be petty. You live here rent-free." Rent-free? I was paying for the food, the electricity, the gas. I hadn't bought myself a new pair of shoes in 2 years. But sure, rent-free. That night, I sat alone in the dark, listening to Aiden laugh from his room while planning his trip. My body felt heavy, but my chest was empty. I wasn't just invisible anymore. I was being used, and worse, I was starting to feel numb to it. I remember the day I got my acceptance letter like it was yesterday. It was a community college in another state. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. My own shot at something better. I read the email on a cracked phone screen while sitting behind the gas station counter during a slow shift. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. When I got home, I told them. I expected at least a half smile. Instead, my mom's face dropped like I'd just told her someone died. "You're leaving?" she whispered. My dad scoffed. "So you're just going to abandon your family?" I stood there stunned. I've been working nonstop for years. I just want to go to school, have a chance. Mom cut me off. Who's going to help with the bills? What about Aiden? He's still figuring things out. You leaving now would ruin everything. Then came the final blow. Aiden looked up from his phone and said, "Wow, you're being really selfish." Man, selfish. That word hit harder than a punch. They didn't see all the times I skipped meals so the fridge wouldn't run out. The holidays I worked through so they could have lights and gifts. The nights I fell asleep on the floor because my back hurt too much to make it to my bed, and now they were calling me selfish? That night I sat with the letter in my lap, hands trembling. I wanted to leave. God, I wanted it so badly. But the guilt. They made me believe everything would fall apart without me. So I tore the letter in half, quietly, slowly. And as the pieces hit the trash, so did every dream I ever allowed myself to have. What I didn't know then was how much more they'd take before I finally snapped. After I gave up on college, I doubled down on work. I picked up more shifts, did overtime whenever it was available, and saved every spare penny I could. I wasn't spending it on myself, just enough for gas and the occasional sandwich. But there was one thing I needed: a car. I found a beat-up old Honda Civic on Facebook Marketplace. The paint was faded, the engine had a cough, but it ran. I paid in cash, every single dollar scraped from years of missing birthdays, skipping meals, and working through the flu. For once, I felt like I'd earned something just for me. I parked it in the driveway with quiet pride. No announcement, no ribbon. Just me sitting in the driver's seat, staring at the steering wheel like it was a spaceship. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of an engine starting. I looked out the window. Aiden was in the driver's seat. My car, I stormed outside. "What the hell are you doing?" He rolled down the window casually. Dad said it was cool. I just needed it to go meet some friends. "No, you don't understand," I snapped. "This is my car. I paid for it. It's not for you to just take." That's when Mom came out, arms crossed. Don't be so dramatic. You both live here, share. Share? Like I was a toddler holding a toy? From that day on, the car was community property. Aiden started using it more than I did. He left it with empty gas tanks, fast food wrappers, and once a scratch down the entire side. No one cared. Every boundary I tried to set was erased the moment it became inconvenient for them. And the scary part was, I started wondering if maybe I wasn't allowed to have anything of my own. The day I decided to leave, I didn't tell a soul. It wasn't a dramatic meltdown. No shouting match. No packed bags in the hallway. It was quiet, methodical. I was done waiting for permission to take up space. Done watching Aiden coast through life while I paid the toll. I found a roommate through a guy at the gas station, a single dad looking to split rent on a 2-bedroom apartment near the edge of town. It wasn't glamorous. Peeling paint, leaky faucet, a water heater that sounded like it was dying. But it had something my parents' house never gave me. Peace. For 2 weeks, I quietly moved my essentials out, one backpack at a time. Work clothes, IDs, my savings hidden in envelopes. I told my parents I was working extra shifts, and they didn't question it. Of course they didn't. I was a ghost to them unless they needed something. The night I left for good, I waited until everyone was asleep. I stood at the front door for a moment, my hand on the knob, half expecting someone to stop me. No one did. I closed the door behind me and didn't look back. 3 days passed before they noticed. 3 days. And when my phone finally rang, it wasn't my mom asking if I was okay. It wasn't my dad telling me they missed me. It was Aiden. "Where's the car?" he asked, annoyed. That was it. No, how are you? No, are you safe? Just entitlement wrapped in confusion. I hung up. Blocked the number. Changed mine the next week. It was terrifying moving out like that. I had nothing but a mattress on the floor, a duffel bag of clothes, and silence. But that silence? It was the loudest freedom I'd ever felt, and for the first time, I realized I could breathe. At first, the silence was beautiful. No slamming doors. No demands. No guilt trips disguised as affection. Just me, my own schedule, and the hum of my cheap fan at night. I could finally hear my own thoughts, and they were angry, sad, exhausted, but mine. But peace doesn't last when people don't want you to have it. It started with a text from my mom. "Your brother misses you. The house feels empty." Then, "Your dad's not eating. He's worried sick." Next came the calls, blocked numbers, voicemails. Aiden even sent a picture of himself fake crying with the caption, "You really abandoned us like that?" Abandoned? They treated me like a machine for years. And the moment I stopped running, they acted like the victims. I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on rebuilding. I got a new job, entry level at a tech startup. Nothing flashy but clean, respectful. No mop, no gas station fumes. For the first time, I had coworkers who noticed when I did a good job. A manager who said, "Thanks for staying late," and actually meant it. I started eating real meals again, sleeping, laughing even. My roommate's kid would knock on my door and ask if I wanted to play Mario Kart, and for the first time in years, someone wanted to spend time with me without needing something from me. But even with all the progress, the guilt haunted me. Late at night, I'd stare at the ceiling wondering, did I do the right thing? Was I really that invisible or just weak for not speaking up sooner? Then another text came in from my mom. "We're struggling without your help. Can you please come home?" And that's when it hit me. They didn't miss me. They missed what I could do for them. It was a random Tuesday when I got the letter. I had applied for a new credit card just to start building my own financial history. Nothing crazy, just something small, manageable. But the rejection came fast. The reason? Existing unpaid loan in your name. What loan? I stared at the letter, confused, thinking it had to be a mistake. I hadn't taken out anything, not even a car loan. My only debt was emotional, so I requested a credit report, and that's when everything cracked open. There it was. A student loan taken out under my name. Thousands of dollars. Months overdue. My social security number. My birth date. My name. But not my signature. I felt sick. My stomach dropped through the floor. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the printout. I called my mom, barely holding it together. "Do you know anything about this loan?" She hesitated, and that hesitation said everything. Finally, she sighed and muttered, Your brother needed help with school. He said you'd understand. Understand? I couldn't breathe. You let him steal my identity? That's fraud, Mom. He didn't steal, he just borrowed your details. You weren't using them. And you've always been responsible. We knew you'd handle it. I almost dropped the phone. It wasn't just favoritism anymore. It wasn't emotional neglect. This was theft. This was betrayal with paperwork and numbers and consequences that could ruin my future, and they justified it by saying I was the reliable one. That night, I sat in my room, lights off, laptop open. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at my own name on a debt I didn't create, realizing that the people I sacrificed everything for had sold me out like I was a spare part. I thought leaving was rock bottom. I was wrong. The next morning, I walked into the police station. I was sweating through my shirt, hands clammy, heart hammering like I was the criminal. But I wasn't. I kept repeating that to myself. I'm the victim. I didn't do anything wrong. Still, the shame clung to me like smoke. Filing a report for identity theft against your own brother is a kind of heartbreak you can't explain. You walk in thinking it'll feel like justice, but it just feels like betrayal with paperwork. The officer raised an eyebrow when I explained, "Wait, your brother did this?" I nodded. "And my parents knew." He exhaled slowly and shook his head. "You'd be surprised how often this happens." A few days later, I got a call from my dad this time. He didn't ask if I was okay. Didn't apologize. He just said, "Do you really want to go this far? You're going to tear this family apart." Tear it apart? They already did that. I told him I'd filed the report, that the loan company was investigating, that Aiden's actions could lead to serious charges. He went silent for a moment, then said, "You're cold, you know that, after everything we did for you." Everything they did for me? I hung up. Eventually, the loan company cleared my name. Thank God for documentation and clean work history. They marked the account as fraudulent, and I was able to get my credit back on track. No charges were filed, only because I chose not to push it further. But my decision wasn't mercy. It was a funeral. That day, I buried whatever love I still had for them. There would be no reconciliation. No second chances. Not this time. They hadn't just crossed a line. They made sure there was nothing left on the other side. After the loan company cleared my name, I turned off my phone for a week. No calls. No messages, no noise. Just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like mine. I took long walks without looking over my shoulder. I started journaling, scribbled messes at first, but then real thoughts. I slept through the night without grinding my teeth or dreaming of unpaid bills. I didn't realize how much of my life had been lived in fight or flight mode until my body finally exhaled. At work, I got promoted. My manager pulled me aside and said, "I've never seen someone bounce back like you." She didn't know the half of it, but I nodded and thanked her, holding back tears. I started seeing a therapist, something I thought I'd never be able to afford or allow myself. She helped me unpack the years of guilt, the twisted family logic, the belief that being useful was the same as being loved. One session, she asked me, "What would you say to 17-year-old you?" Right now? I couldn't speak. My throat tightened and I just sat there, staring at my hands. After a while, I whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't protect you sooner." That cracked something open in me. It wasn't just about leaving them. It was about reclaiming me, the parts I buried to keep the peace, the dreams I threw away, the version of myself that once believed he mattered. The healing didn't come all at once. It came in pieces. Coffee sips, quiet mornings, walking home without dread. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. Not to them. Not to anyone. And the silence, the one that used to feel like punishment, became my shield. But silence doesn't mean they disappeared. Because eventually, they came crawling back. It started with a Facebook message from my cousin out of the blue. "Hey, I don't want to overstep, but your family's in trouble. Thought you should know." I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "What kind of trouble?" She sent a voice note. Turns out Aiden had moved back in after burning through his student loan money and dropping out. Again. He wasn't working, just sleeping in, partying, living like the world owed him a soft landing. My parents, still clinging to the golden boy dream, covered for him. But the money ran out. Credit cards maxed. Mortgage payments missed. They're talking about selling the house, she said. Your dad's blood pressure is through the roof. Your mom cries all the time. And they keep saying, if only he would help us. He, meaning me. I didn't feel what I thought I would. No satisfaction, no glee. Just a strange, heavy calm. I'd spent years holding them up while they stood on my back and fed Aiden steak off a silver spoon. And now that the tower had crumbled, they were looking for the one pillar they smashed and tossed aside. I thanked my cousin and logged off. A few days later, an email arrived. Subject line, "We miss you." The body. Things haven't been easy. We're proud of how far you've come. We could really use your help right now. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just emotional bait wrapped in nostalgia. They weren't reaching out because they loved me. They were reaching because I was useful again. And this time, I wasn't going to play savior. I wasn't their emergency exit. I wasn't their ATM. I was the son they left behind. And I was finally okay with that. I should have known ignoring their email wouldn't be the end. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Slow day at work. I was reviewing client tickets at my desk when I heard a voice at the front desk say my full name, loud, demanding. My stomach dropped. I looked up through the glass panel and saw them, my mom and Aiden. My mom looked older, thinner. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes tired. Aiden stood behind her, arms crossed, wearing a designer hoodie I knew he didn't buy with his own money. My heart started racing. I felt 17 again. Cornered. Small. Before they could be let in, I walked straight to reception and said, "Call security." The receptionist blinked. "They said they're your family." "I know," I said flatly. "That's why I want them out." Security escorted them out without incident, but my mom kept shouting over her shoulder, "We just want to talk." "Why are you doing this to us?" Aiden added, "You think you're too good for us now?" Too good? I stood by the window, watching them disappear down the sidewalk, and I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. Later that day, my boss pulled me aside. "Everything okay?" she asked gently. I hesitated, then told her the whole story. The childhood neglect, the stolen identity, the emotional manipulation. She listened. No judgment. No awkward silence. When I finished, she just nodded and said, "I'm proud of you for getting out." I almost cried. It was the first time anyone ever said that to me. Not "you're strong," not "you'll be okay," but "I'm proud of you." Not for surviving them, but for choosing something better, and that validation, it healed something my family never even tried to touch. That night, I went home and sat at my desk for hours. No screens. No noise. Just me, a pen, and a blank page. I started writing without thinking, just letting it pour out. Every sentence felt like pulling a splinter from under my skin. I didn't hold back. I wrote to my dad, to my mom, to Aiden, every betrayal, every moment they made me feel invisible, every sacrifice they twisted into obligation. "I was never your son," I wrote. "I was your employee, your scapegoat, your fallback plan." I told them about the night I cried alone on my birthday while Aiden got a new PlayStation, about the time I gave them my last $50 and went to bed hungry while they ordered takeout, about how it broke me when they smiled at his laziness but flinched at my exhaustion. I wrote about the car, the loan, the way they turned me into a villain the moment I said no. But I also wrote this: "I forgive you, not because you asked, but because I need to let go. I won't carry your shame anymore. I'm done bleeding for people who sharpened the knife." When I finished, my hands were shaking. I folded the letter slowly and placed it in a shoebox with old ID cards, a copy of the police report, and a photo of me as a kid, smiling, unaware of the years ahead. I'll never send it. They'll never read those words. But writing them, that was for me. I went to bed that night without heaviness on my chest. No anger, no tears. Just silence, the good kind. The kind that feels like peace after a war. But just when I thought the story was over. I got one last email. This time, they weren't asking for help. They were begging for it. The subject line read, "We're about to lose the house." I stared at it for a long time before clicking. Inside was a long, winding paragraph from my mom, filled with desperation dressed up as nostalgia. She talked about the good times, the family memories, how much they missed having me around. Then came the real reason. They were drowning in debt. The bank was foreclosing, and Aiden was not in the right place mentally to help. Then she said the words that almost made me laugh out loud. "You've done so well. We're so proud of you." Proud. The same people who watched me break my back for years without a shred of acknowledgement were now proud, because I'd become the kind of man they could benefit from. Again. I didn't reply right away. I took a walk around the block, letting the cold air sting my face. I thought about the nights I walked home from double shifts while Aiden played video games. The day they gave him credit for my work. The time they justified identity theft by calling me responsible. And now, they wanted me to bail them out. Not because they saw me, because they needed me. I went back inside, sat at my desk, and hovered my fingers over the keyboard. For a moment, I considered writing something sharp. Something final. A paragraph that would haunt them like they haunted me. Instead, I hit delete. Not just the email, but the entire chain. Every message, every plea, every guilt-drenched manipulation they tried to feed me like love. Gone. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for saying no. I felt free. But I wasn't done yet. Because this story, it doesn't end with rejection. It ends with something better. These days, my life is quiet, but full. I wake up in my own apartment, sunlight pouring through clean windows I paid for myself. I make coffee slowly. No shouting down the hallway. No demands waiting behind a door. Just the sound of peace steeping in every corner. I work for a company that respects me. I've built savings, repaired my credit, even started mentoring other kids from hard homes trying to find their footing. Every time I hear one of them say, "No one's ever believed in me before," I remember what that felt like, and I make sure they never feel it again. My roommate and his kid eventually moved out. We still talk weekly. I'm godfather to his son now. That kid calls me uncle and hugs me tighter than my own brother ever did. I'm dating someone now, someone who doesn't ask me to shrink. She listens when I speak. She notices when I'm tired. One night I told her everything, every ugly detail, and she didn't flinch, just held my hand and said, "You didn't deserve any of that. But you do deserve everything good that's coming." And I believe her, because now I finally see what they couldn't. I was never weak for leaving. I was strong for surviving. I wasn't cold for cutting them off. I was kind to myself for the first time. Sometimes I still get emails. I don't open them. I don't hate them anymore. I just don't owe them anything. Not love, not anger, not answers. I used to think healing would look like a reunion. A big apology, some final dramatic scene. But healing for me looked like space, distance, clarity. A quiet life where I don't have to prove I matter, and maybe that's the most powerful revenge of all. Sometimes thriving isn't loud. It's just peaceful.